What is up, OCD community, and anyone else that is consuming this content on my page? Welcome to Peacefully Wired. My name is Matt. I'm your OCD coach. Before I get into what I'm about to talk about today, which is religious OCD, please like, follow, subscribe. Subscribe, I guess we're on YouTube, right? And comment down below. And just know that if you leave any negative comments, I most likely won't interact with you because it'll be a huge waste of my time. So I want to talk about religious OCD and how tricky religious OCD is on a lot of different levels. And it's particularly tricky for me because I am not a religious person. I am not an atheist or agnostic or whatever else out there that's not, I guess, for the sake of what I'm talking about, we'll just use Christianity today, but I'm not a religious individual. I don't care if people are religious. I don't care what you believe in, to be perfectly honest with you, and neither does OCD. OCD is a belief disorder that cares not about what your religious affiliation is, your sexuality, um, what type of relationships you prefer. It cares about your beliefs, essentially. So I've been working with people that have religious OCD. And I find that it's particularly challenging because religious doctrine has a lot of rigid beliefs with it. And so when you have OCD and you're, indoctrinated into religion, you kind of have a double-edged sword because you have all of these really rigid beliefs that come with believing in religion, whatever it might be. And then you have OCD that preys on your beliefs, and we'll get into those fears that you have due to what your beliefs are. So when we have when people have religious OCD or fears around religion, typically their fears are fear of rejection, right? Fear of rejection from God, fear of going to hell, fear of rejection from their family if their family is very religious, fear of rejection from their community if they're in a really religious community, fear of rejection from themselves. I'm not a good Christian. I'm a bad person if I'm not this thing. So a whole lot of rejection fears. And then obviously the fear of going to hell and burning for all eternity is not a fun thought for anybody, of course. So just fear. And what's interesting about religion is, in my opinion, a lot of it is based around fear. I'm not saying don't be religious. I'm not saying don't be a Christian. I'm just saying, from my perspective, there's a lot of fear that goes into having belief systems that revolve around religion. And there are people out there that will tell you, you have to drop your religion to recover from OCD. I don't believe that. Something I might have believed in, 5-10 years ago. I'm a little bit more open-minded now, and I have more empathy and compassion for people. And again, if you want to believe in religion, whatever it is, I think you can still be a Christian, a Muslim. I still think you could be a Catholic, a Jew. I think you could be any of these things. I think that your beliefs around religion are going to have to be more flexible. Meaning, you're going to have to take the risk of pissing God off. You're going to have to take the risk of not adhering to the scripture to the T. Which is interesting because if we really wanted to, we could pick a lot of different verses that are in the Bible and passages where they talk about some pretty messed up things. Slavery is one of those things, right? So, when when we're concerned about not adhering to certain things in the Bible or any religious script, right? We have to remember or look and investigate and see what other things are there in this text that I'm holding so rigidly that maybe would be something that I wouldn't hold rigidly in my life, right? I think there's something in the Bible about not consuming shellfish on Sunday. Do you eat crabs or shrimp or lobster on Sunday? Did I say Saturday? Sunday. On Sunday. If you do that, but you're also clamping down really hard on, supposedly it says that, you're not allowed to be gay in the Bible. How do you determine which one of those is something that you're going to have rigid beliefs around, right? just an example, there's a lot of rigidity in these belief systems. It is a really windy day here in Prescott, Arizona. The camera's probably moving a little bit, but this is where I had the space to do a video today. So this is what we're working with. Something else I've noticed in working and talking to people that have religious OCD or fears around OCD in the religious context, because I don't think there's really any themes. I think if you have fears in one area of your life, you're going to have fears in others. You're going to have rigid beliefs in one area. You're going to have rigid beliefs in other areas. And that's what OCD is all about. But, for this video, we're talking about people that have a lot of fears around religion. And something I've noticed is that there are people that believe that God has intervened in their life to some degree, or that they talk to God or God talks to them. And so that makes their experience and their devotion and their need and responsibility to fulfill all of what God is asking of them, it's that much more heightened. It's that much more real. And the funny thing about OCD, or the fact about OCD, is that it is a disorder that makes things feel really real. It's part of the disorder. Things feel extremely heightened. They feel even more real than the average person, right? No matter what it is, the thoughts feel real, the sensations feel real. And typically when people have this heightened sense of responsibility around the fact that they believe that God is interacting with them, it makes it more difficult for them to separate religion from OCD. One is a brain disorder, and one is your belief, one is a set of belief systems, right? A set of belief systems that typically are going to influence like all of your beliefs in life, which is another kind of obstacle that you're going to have if you have religious OCD. So it's not a religious disorder. You don't have a religious disorder. You have a belief disorder. To get free from this belief disorder, you have to change your beliefs. And that, like I said, that might mean not being the Christian that you want to be. That might mean people in your community raising their eyebrows about you not doing certain things that they think say in the Bible that you need to adhere to, uh, to the T, and your family, and you're going to have to take the risk that that's going to happen. And the way that you break those things down is asking yourself, would it be the worst thing in the world if I wasn't the best Christian I could be? Could I still find joy in my life? Absolutely. I'm not a Christian, and I have lots of joy in my life, right? There are many, many people out there that don't believe in Christianity on the level, and some that aren't even really strict Christians, and go out and live their lives how they want to live them. Some in a way of debauchery, and still believe, but still have a joyful life, right? They don't have as rigid belief system around how they're supposed to behave on a regular basis. And your peers and people that you go to church with and things of that nature, spend a lot of time with, do Bible study with, are not going to understand what it is that you're doing, and that's okay. They don't have OCD, and they don't know what OCD is and how it operates. Okay, they don't have the OCD brain, and they're not like someone like me who does have OCD, who's recovered and understands how this works. So you're going to have to take these risks, right? What we're talking about is gaining the freedom. You want the freedom from OCD. You don't need the freedom from the religion necessarily. You just need the freedom from the beliefs. And again, going back to like thinking if God's talking to you or God has intervened in your life and somehow you have a heightened responsibility to adhere to every single thing that you read in the Bible. Again, it's about, look, do I want freedom from this? I'm going to have to be more flexible. I'm going to have to take the risk and live the life that I want to live on my terms. And you're going to have to go in and read some of the stuff that's in the Bible, that's there, go and look for it, that is probably things that would make you cringe in your normal life, things that you would not adhere to. And that will help you break down kind of, how irrational it is to have such a rigid belief system in these things. And again, not saying you can't believe in God and that you can't believe in Christianity, but understand things like, just because you believe God talked to you or God has intervened in your life in some way might make it proof for you, but it doesn't make it proof for me, or the whole? And if that was true, then we'd all believe in God, and God would talk to all of us. And you can tell me all day long, Matt, you're just not listening, or you don't believe enough. But there are people that don't believe in Christianity and think God has talked to them. My uncle had a near-death experience when he was very young and believes that he sat on a bench and talked to God. And he's not a very Christian person. He kind of lives his life the way he wants to live it. So your proof is not a collective proof. Your experience is not a collective experience. And you might have people that have had similar experiences to you. You might have read about them. You might have watched a documentary, whatever it is, and they've had similar experiences or maybe the exact same experience that you have had. It still doesn't make it, it's still not proof on a whole level, right? Or like I said, we would all believe in God, and it would be a universal truth that there's only one religion and only one type of God that exists. Looks like UPS is showing up, and this is the fun of doing stuff on video, right? So again, it just comes back to like the flexibility that you're going to have. If you have OCD and you have it around your religion, you are going to have to start to break down, things like, if I was to spend my hell in eternity, you know, um, obviously not the best thing in the world. Doesn't sound like fun, but we also can't prove that that exists because you don't really know. We don't really know 100% that that is a fact of life, or else, you know, you you'd hear more about it, or people would come back and talk to you and tell you that they went to hell. I don't really know any. I mean, I know people come back and people talk about seeing my wife's in the window, seeing people that have crossed over, but I don't hear many stories about people crossing over talking about hell or the devil. I haven't, and my wife and I pay attention and watch a lot of things. I don't think I've ever seen or heard anybody that's a medium that talks to people that have crossed over, and that person is telling them that they're experiencing, fire and brimstone and Satan. I haven't seen it. If you have and you want to show it to me, it's not going to change my mind, right? Because you can show me people, my wife has we've watched a lot of things about mediums and people that think that they've talked to Jesus. It's not my experience. So for me, that's not proof. I'm going to have to see it for myself. So, you can share that stuff with me. I can watch all the stuff I want. I have an open mind. It's all possible. My belief is 99.9% probably that there's no such thing as heaven and hell. But that's just my belief. Again, I don't have any proof of it, and there's not a universal proof that that exists, or we all would believe in it. These are ways to break down, your beliefs basically about the rigidity. It doesn't mean you can't believe in Christianity or whatever religion you want to believe in, but you have to be a little bit more flexible, understanding there's 10,000 religions in the world. To believe that your religion and your text and all of the teachings in it are the only teachings to adhere by in life and to live your life by, I mean, again, that's a really rigid, kind of narrow, myopic way to look at things if you really look at it, right? 10,000 religions, and your religion is the only one that should be followed or that you're going to follow. I get it. If you picked that one, cool. But if you think that's the only one that's right and the only way to live, that's a really rigid way of looking at things. Try working on, hey, there's 10,000 religions in the world. Everybody probably thinks that that religion is the right one. And I can accept that and accept people for having different points of view and different views on religion. And I can also accept that I might not know that 100% this is true. It's another thing with religion. People are, I 100% know that this is the right thing. And it's, no, you don't. You do not know 100% that what you believe is actual and factual, because there are no universal facts to back it up. There's only what you believe, essentially. There's only what you believe. There's only what you've been presented and what you've grown up probably, paying attention to, indoctrinated into. And there are people that find religion later in their life, and a lot of that is based on a lot of different things. But you know, back to the flexibility, like you're gonna have to, I believe in this, I believe in Christianity, but it's not my identity. It doesn't define me as a human being. And, I'm open to not knowing. And I know that's a scary thing for a lot of people that believe in specifically the Christian faith, or any faith probably, is not giving your 110% to it. And if you're worried about not being able to give your 110% to your religion and you have OCD around it, you're not going to recover from OCD. And I'll tell you another thing. You're not going to get help from a Christian who had OCD unless that person has recovered from OCD by changing their beliefs and has a more flexible view around religion. And you would know by talking to them. If you're talking to a pastor who thinks that they had OCD or they have OCD and they're recovered from it and they used God to recover, not going to get you recovered. I don't care what is out there. The people that are talking, I know there's some prominent people in the community that are Christian based and have OCD and have written books about it and have helped a lot of people. You're not recovered. You're using Christ, God, Jesus as reassurance, and you're constantly praying in times of crisis. And I'm talking about getting a freedom from OCD to where you don't have to do that. You can pray all you want. If you're praying about your OCD, though, you're probably doing it compulsively, and it's not going to go away. It's a brain disorder, and it's not going to be just snatched out of your brain by an entity, no matter how bad you believe it, no matter how much you want to believe it. It's not going to happen. And it'll keep coming back over and over and over again. So you've got to be flexible around your religious beliefs if you want to recover from OCD. Okay, which means breaking down all of the rigidity that you have, really going in and working on some of those things by just the examples that I give you. And I hope I gave you enough. And I will do more on religious OCD. It's a very interesting topic. So I appreciate you joining me. I'm Matt. I'm Peacefully Wired. Stay tuned for the next one.